Welcome to English Podcasts with Chris
and Sue.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of English-podcasts.com. I'm Sue and I'm here with my co-host Chris. So how are you doing today, Chris?
Hi Sue, I'm great thanks, and you know what? I'm ready to bring the heat today, literally.
Now, should I be worried? But I really love your energy. But another topic today is spicy food. That's the topic we're diving into. Why do we crave spicy food even though it hurts? And just to say at the beginning, I know you're a fan of spicy food,
Love it.
I'm not. So why would we willingly inflict pain on ourselves?
Right, so eating spicy food is like signing up for a tiny torture session, but somehow we love it. You know, it burns your mouth, your stomach is aching, etc. And by the end of this episode, you'll not only know why, but also hear some spicy trivia, like which countries can't get enough of the heat and which ones run the other way. And we'll talk about the science behind that burn in your mouth too.
Okay, can't wait. And just to say, we're going to be talking about the hottest foods in the world. Now then, I think I've heard of something called the Carolina Reaper. I'm not sure what it is. What is it, Chris?
That's one of the hottest peppers. In fact, it was the hottest in the world, high up on the Scoville scale, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I think it's been taken over by something like a black ghost or something like that. But you have some which are the Carolina Reaper is one of the hottest ones, and another one is called a Naga chili. A Naga in Indian is a cobra. There's also a viper. So there's a lot of them that have sort of descriptive names. But you know, we'll get on to that.
Well, clearly you know a lot more about it than I do. So anyway, so let's jump in. So first of all, Chris, let's start with the science. What is spicy food and why does it give us that burning sensation?
That's a great question, Sue. But the main culprit in chili peppers is a compound called capsaicin. It's found in the white membranes inside the pepper and also in the seeds, and it's designed by nature to protect the plant from being eaten by other animals.
Okay, so it's basically a kind of defense mechanism?
It's exactly that. And capsaicin triggers the TRPV1 receptors in our mouths. These are the same nerve receptors that sense heat, like when you touch a hot stove or if you drink a hot cup of coffee or cup of tea that burns your tongue. So when you eat something spicy, your brain is fooled into thinking your mouth is literally on fire.
Oh, wow. So that explains why I sweat buckets when I eat spicy food, spicy curry. But why do people seem to love that feeling? I don't, but why do some people do? Are they just kind of masochists?
Not quite. The key is that eating spicy food releases endorphins and dopamines. This is the feel-good chemicals in our brain. And it's a bit like the runner's high. So while it burns, your brain's like, hey, great job.
Wow. Okay, so it's kind of pain and pleasure at the same time. That's kind of wild.
Yeah, exactly. And some scientists think humans developed a taste for spice because it's beneficial. Capsaicin has antimicrobial properties, so spicy foods can help preserve food or kill bacteria. And that's why it's more common in hot climates where food spoils a lot faster because of the heat.
Okay, so speaking of climates, let's talk about geography. So, Chris, which countries are the biggest spice fanatics?
Definitely. Well, there are countries like Thailand, India, Mexico, and surprisingly, Ethiopia. I don't know Ethiopian food, but apparently they love spice and they love chilies. And they've built entire cuisines around the heat. Thai curries, Mexican salsa, Indian vindaloo. These dishes don't just taste good, they also help you cool down in hot weather.
Are you sure? Cool down? That kind of sounds counterintuitive.
I know. It's like when you drink tea. If you look in countries like India or North Africa where it's hot, people drink hot drinks and not cold drinks. But it's true, spicy food makes you sweat, and when that sweat evaporates, it cools your body down. It's genius, right?
Well, pretty clever. Okay, so what about countries that don't do spice?
Well, most of the countries in Northern Europe don't like spice. Countries like Norway or Iceland aren't big on spice. Their traditional dishes are more about preserved fish, dairy and grains, and the colder climate didn't really require the preservation benefits of spicy foods. So that's why they don't really have it in their cuisine.
Well, I suppose that makes sense. In fact, I've never heard of having a fiery chili with like a pickled herring. I'm not quite sure it would go together.
Exactly.
Okay, Chris. So let's spice things up a bit further with a few fun facts. Okay. So did you know there is a scale? I'm sure you do know, actually, a scale to measure how spicy a pepper is.
Yeah, I do know this one.
I knew you'd know that.
I do. And it's called the Scoville scale. And it measures the concentration of capsaicin in a pepper. For example, a jalapeno has about 2,500 to 8,000 Scoville heat units, while the Carolina Reaper, the world's hottest pepper, can go over 2 million. And I think the new one, which is like the Ghost or something like this, it's like 3 million Scovilles.
Okay, 2 million, 3 million. It's way too much for me, and that's crazy. So why would anybody want to eat that?
It's a good question, but some people just love the thrill. And there are competitions all around the world to see who can eat the spiciest food. And also there are chili pepper eating competitions.
Well, those people must be crazy. Anyway, speaking of spicy foods like that, let's talk about some of the hottest dishes in the world. Now then, I've heard about a curry called a viral curry. I'm sure you know, but is that how you pronounce it?
Phal.
A phal curry. Okay, it's pretty. People have got it's a very bad reputation from my point of view. Very, very spicy. So it's so hot that the chefs even have to wear masks while they're cooking it. Is that right?
Yeah, and a lot of these chilies or preparation for these chilies or in these competitions, people wear safety glasses and they wear rubber gloves so they don't touch the chilies, because the problem is that when you're cutting chilies or when you're using them, even the chilies that we use, which are not going to 2 million on the Scoville, they might go to 1 million or whatever. Sometimes what we can do afterwards is we can rub our eyes, and when you have chili in your eye, it is not nice, and you'll start crying. But the phal curry is a really, really hot one. I mean, it's unbearably hot. But there's also another spicy dish, is a Sichuan hot pot from China, which uses Sichuan peppers, which are a lot hotter than normal pepper, that numb your mouth while they burn. And let's not forget sambal from Indonesia, a spicy chili paste that's a staple there. It's used everywhere there, and it makes it really hot. However, the thing with Indonesian food is generally the sambal and the pepper or the chili is not mixed in with the food. What you get alongside Indonesian food is 2 sort of little bowls or whatever, one with green chilies and one with red chili paste, this sambal. But the actual food is not that spicy. You can have like curry made with coconut milk, etc., and it's not hot at all. And you sort of dose it yourself at the table.
Oh, thank goodness for that, because that sounds terrifying with that high level of spice. What about buffalo wings in the USA? Some of those spices can be quite chilly for me.
True, and while we're at it, shout out to Korea's buldak or fire chicken, which is basically a dish designed to challenge your spice tolerance.
Okay, so let's circle back to something that you mentioned earlier. Hot countries often have spicy food because it helps with their preservation. But is that the only reason?
Not at all. Spicy food also boosts circulation and makes you feel cooler. I know it sounds really weird. Plus, capsicum plants thrive in hot climates, so chilies are more readily available there. They're quite difficult to grow, for example, in Iceland or Norway.
So that's really fascinating how culture and environment can really shape a cuisine. So it's not just to be practical, it's also for the flavour as well.
Absolutely. The complexity of heat combined with other spices creates a depth of flavour that's hard to beat. It's not just about the burn, it's about balance.
Okay, so before we wrap up, Chris, could you give us some advice, to me and also to the listeners, about before we dip our toes into the spicy world of spices? Because some people are quite nervous about spices. What kind of advice would you give us?
Okay, so start small. Just try little bits of it. Try mild peppers like poblanos or banana peppers. Add a bit of chili powder to soups or stews, and always have a glass of milk handy. Dairy is great for neutralizing the burn, but so too are breads.
What about water? Should we drink water or avoid water?
But avoid it, because that just spreads the capsicum around and makes it worse. And don't be afraid to experiment. Spice tolerance builds over time. So what feels unbearable today might be delicious a month from now.
Okay, well, I'll take your word for that. Okay. So, well, that's all for today, folks. We hope that you've learned a lot about spicy foods and why some people crave them, even though it hurts. It's science, culture, and a little bit of
Masochism.
masochism. That's the word. I'm overcome with the spice here.
There you go.
Oh my
You've
goodness!
not tried any
I
yet.
haven't tried.
Yeah, so it's pretty much true, yeah. And don't forget, if you try any of the spicy dishes we mentioned today, let us know. We'd love to hear about your experience. And have you eaten a fowl curry?
Oh my goodness me. Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in today to English-podcast.com. We'll be back next week with another exciting topic. Until then, stay spicy.
And don't forget your glass of milk. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review.
To catch all the latest from English podcasts, you can follow us on Instagram at english.podcasts and on YouTube at english-podcasts.
And visit our website at english-podcast.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.